Come on in the room Sundays with Crystal. I don't know what just happened. I'm hoping that I am recording. But come on in the room, you guys. Come on in the room. You guys, let me know if you guys were able to see this video, whether it be now, whether it be later. So for some reason, it's not showing me if people are on and watching. So let me know that you came on. Let me know if there's something that you may have a question about that you want to ask me. And let's take care of some business first. First, I don't own the copyrights to the music that you may be hearing in the background. And second is that all three of my books are still available for ordering through Amazon or either through myself. So the first book is actual a prayer journal, and it's God's Love for the Grieving Widow. It's a 31-day prayer journal, and it is for widows. And my second book is There is Beauty in My Brokenness. Let me tell you guys, I have been trying to find that beauty in this brokenness that I found myself on. But There is Beauty in My Brokenness can be ordered through myself or either through Amazon. And my third book is No Man Plans to Fail, but Many Fail to Plan, Divine Direction and Connections. And so that's where I am right now. Just informing, educating people to get their affairs in place, to get their affairs in order. And hey, because we never know, right? The vicissitudes of life are going to happen. We are going to continue to experience loss. We will not be here with one another forever. And so we have to take the time to prepare so that when we lose our loved ones, when they go ahead and, when they've gone ahead of us, that we would have our things and our affairs in place and in order. For those of us that have already lost our spouses, our loved ones, you may be living with your parent and, not have those things in place, and you might be faced with a lot of different things like going through probate, having problems with getting bank accounts and getting money from out of bank accounts because they may have not had a beneficiary on the accounts. And so there are ways that you can navigate that. And so I was talking about, as I was giving my testimony last Sunday, I was hit with a challenge that Monday. It was like I was explaining to you guys about the getting the forms together and all of that. And then I got hit with that challenge. And so I felt like, the Slewfoot devil that he is, always try to throw obstacles in your life. At the same time, I realized that this is the journey that God has me on right now. And so I have to know that at the end of the day, no matter how many times I'm faced with having to go through to do a probate, that form that I was telling you guys about last week, that it triggers me to not know and for things to come up unexpectedly. And so it was another account that my husband had. And so as I was speaking to the gentleman and talking to him, it just was like, it wasn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing if you have some money coming from somewhere, especially in this time and day, right? So it wasn't that, but it was such a trigger for me to know that there are still things out there that I don't know about. And so I'm thankful that God has caused it to come up at the same time, I'm missing my husband. I'm missing that relationship, that going through life today without him can be very difficult. And so, um, I was really bummed out, and I was, I called a couple of people and spoke to them, and they blessed me. They helped me by just letting me talk it out and say, hey, this is what's going on, and this is how I'm feeling. And so today, my bishop was teaching on, having a storm, knowing the difference between having a storm and having a how was it? How did was it? Having the storm and then having the season of your life. Hey, you guys, thank you guys for coming on. Welcome to come on to Pop Up Sundays with Crystal. And so as he was talking about the seasons, and as he was talking about, the storms, and sometimes we can put ourselves in those positions. And so whether we like it or not, the seasons are gonna come, right? And so as I thought about it at a time when I was not mad with God, but I was most definitely disappointed with God. And so I was disappointed because we can kind of, where I come from, the ministry that I come from, my former bishop, Virgil Patterson, he just taught us faith, all right? And so we walked in faith and we walked by faith. And so the way the teaching was there was so foundational. At the same time, it made me feel like my family was untouchable when it came down to death, at least for now. And so when death hit my family the way it did, and unexpectedly, I was shaken. And so I realized that my faith was not where I thought it was, and my foundation wasn't as it wasn't as strong as I thought it was, because I wanted to give up. I wanted to give up on life. I didn't want to hurt myself, but I certainly did not care whether I woke up or not. I didn't even think about considering anybody else, or even my children or my grandchildren. I just wanted to say, I don't want to be here any longer. And so in that, I am so grateful today that God, he knows all things. He knows our beginning. He knows our ending. So he knows when he allows us to lament to him. He allows us to go through things. But at the end of the day, he says it's beauty for ashes, right? So beauty for ashes is that you went through all of these things. You went through a lot of different turmoil. You went through loss. You went through loss of, there can be so many different things. It could be loss of a spouse. It could be loss of a job. It could be loss of a parent or someone that is close to you. And so, and you can feel like, this is not fair. Why me? Why this happened to me? Why this happened to my family? If I'm serving you, God, like, you can feel sometimes that you're untouchable. That's how I felt, like I was untouchable, like, where God got me and he has me. And then you find out and you learn later that God is sovereign. He can do whatever he wants to do. And that, it's a hard place. But then you also start, as you start learning, I'm taking a class at church right now called Sonship of the Firstborn. And so as I'm learning and I'm learning how things really are supposed to be according to the Word of God versus just saying, having a mouth to say this, that, or that. Like I would say, God was the head of my household. And I realized that God was not the head of my household. And so I had my husband in a place where he was really the head of my life. And so I didn't realize that until after I lost him. I was like, oh my God, who is going to be my protector? Who is going to be my provider? Because he did those things for me while he was here. And so we can say that, but then you find yourself realizing when you lose that you really have to rely on God for real, because there's nobody else. You find yourself not being able to turn to anybody else when that person, passes away. And so I have been speaking to a lot of widows, because you guys know I speak to a lot of widows throughout the week. And this is becoming to be the holiday time, and you're the ones that normally do the cooking, or either maybe their husbands or their wives were the cook and stuff. And so each year, even this is going to be my fourth year, and I don't know, I've been feeling some kind of way, you guys. If I could be honest, it's like I have just decided to solo this Thanksgiving and just, you know, solo this Thanksgiving. But I've had, many Thanksgivings after he passed, and family that's so loving and so kind. We have been spending the last couple of Thanksgivings with my husband's family. They've been so kind to come down and get an Airbnb where we can all meet up at one place. And I'm thankful, because I know even in that everybody does not have that. You have some families that are completely torn apart now, that spouse is no longer here. They don't want to have anything to do with you any longer. Um, you may have, last year or the couple of years before, I have a niece that went through a divorce, and is still battling some things with that. And so we never know, what position we may find ourselves in. But listen, you have to make sure that you have a firm foundation, and that your faith is built on the rock, which is Jesus Christ, who is the one that can help us through our storm and our seasons that we're in, because we're going to go through these seasons of life, right? And so, as my bishop was teaching today, talking about, hey, you got to stay in the boat in order to survive the season. How you have to, I'm just learning that you have to counteract those thoughts that are in your mind. We tend to try to say, I think about my husband, and I think about, maybe I should have took him to the hospital. Maybe I should have, my son say, Mama, maybe I should have took his keys, because we knew that he wasn't feeling well at the time. And so uh, it's like, when the word says that God knew us when we were in our mother's womb, He's seen us being knitted in that dark space right there, right? So when He allows us to come here to earth, and He picks us to put us in our families, He picks us to come down on earth for a purpose, and for our destiny, right? So if He knew that already, it was nothing that we can do to have changed that, of change that, um, from happening. So we try to make all of these things to try to change it around and turn back the time, right? And so, too, another thing is you may be like me. I was kind of like, okay, God got me, God got us, and we're doing good. We had just purchased our home, and we just pretty much, were fulfilling, I guess, what you call the American dream. And so when things go in another direction, it's sad and it's difficult. And so I said that to say something. I lost it, you guys, but maybe it'll come back to me. But because we don't know. Um, Thank you, Crystal. You're so sweet. You know what? I have had people say that, and I may cook me a small meal. I don't know how to cook small, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to cook me a small meal and just relax. And hopefully, I'm not just here sad, but I don't know what it is. My kids, they're kind of made other plans to do other things. So, and I didn't want to go to LA. So I just said, you know what? If you guys are not coming over to, to my in-laws, then I don't want to go. Okay, I've already lost my husband, right? And so I don't want to show up to the family without at least my kids' support, right? So that's why I chose not to go, because my kids, they chose to do something different this year. In the last 4 years, we have been together. The first Thanksgiving, we had an intimate, quiet dinner here together. So, it's okay if they decide they want to do something different this year. Although, my kids act like I live in Japan and they're just right in LA, and I have not seen them in a minute. And so that's why I just chose to just kind of stay at home and reflect and, you know, just have a nice quiet. I'll probably look at some Lifetime or something, or look at some Hallmark movies or something, or I probably would be on the phone with some widows that are in the same position as me. They may be alone, they may not have anyone, or choose not to go anywhere for now. And so, because we can feel like, even though we are around everybody, everybody is having a good time, you still can feel very lonely at that. Because I remember last year when I went, it was 3 years, and I still in my mind was thinking, let me go, when I went to make my plate, oh, let me go make my husband's plate. And so that kind of shook me a little bit. And I was like, wow, that was really crazy that was my thought. Each time that I went there, I was thinking to make his plate. And but it's all good, you guys. But I just want to encourage those of you that have had loss, whether it be a parent, whether it be separation, whether it be a loss, to just enjoy yourself. Um, Listen, life is and so uncertain for you to hold malice against your loved ones, against your, family members. I know family members that have not spoken to each other for years, and it's so sad because I bet you they don't even really know what happened. Like, if you ask them what happened, they don't even really know. And if they do know, it's so minute that it's like, really, are you serious? That's why y'all not talking? And so, listen, make amends, because the Bible says that if you have aught against your brother or your sister, what's the use of praying? He's like, I don't even hear your prayers, because listen, we have to go to God each and every day and ask for forgiveness. Is it forgiveness because am I going to go to hell because I did something wrong? No, it's not that. It's forgiveness because it's you reverencing who God is and who he is to you. And that's to say, that's the respect to say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry, Lord, for my offense. I'm sorry for my action, because he's not expecting you to have that action, towards people. We can't continue this behavior. As bad as I want to be upset and angry about people's actions, who am I? I am not their God. So, and I'm not God. I'm not anyone's God. So be forgiving this Thanksgiving. Be loving this Thanksgiving, even if it hurts you, but you will never believe it or not, that you being forgiven will free you up more than that other person. That will free you up to say, you know what? Don't block your blessings that God has for you, because he most definitely has them for you. So go ahead and be forgiving. You don't have to be up in that person's face or anything like that, but you want to go ahead and be forgiven. And hey, move on, go on, but don't let that person leave here. And it's that type of unforgiveness that you be crying and falling out after they have passed away, and then you have to write letters saying, you know what, I asked you to forgive me, I didn't know you were going to die. And so it's different when that person dies, but what we do is we take people for granted. And so that's why it's okay for you not to speak to that person. It's okay for you not to say, you know what, let us mend this thing. And even if you mend it and move on, it's still, mending it. It's, you are hindering your prayers when you live in unforgiveness. You are causing hurt and pain upon your body when you live in forgiveness and unforgiveness. So you want to be forgiving. How about this year? Let's go out strong in forgiving and not being judgmental towards somebody. Because guess what? At the end of the day, I was talking to someone, and they were being kind of judgmental about things that were going on, talking about the government and talking about this person does this person does that. Let me tell you something. Don't forget where you came from. And even with that, don't forget where you came from. Let me tell you something. 4 years ago, I was not in the place where I am today. And so we never know. So it was so hard for me to be that person was, giving. I was always that giver. I was the one that always had extra food in my house that I always gave out of my deep freezer. I always was there to provide and help somebody else. So when the tables turned, it was hard for me because I'm that person, because I always just felt like this. Okay, I'm the head, I'm not the tail. And I'm the lender, I'm not the borrower. But we never know when we become, when it shifts. And so because we don't know, I mean, you can be up today and down tomorrow, or even in the same day. We never know. I never in a million years thought that it would be a time when I didn't have food in my refrigerator, or I didn't have, bills I didn't have the money to pay my bills. Never. Because God has always provided, but it has been so hard for me when people have blessed me and given to me. Instead of thinking about it like, Crystal, you have sowed seeds and you're getting the harvest now. I didn't think about it like that. And so as I was listening to my bishop not long ago, and it's pride is what it is. It's that pride that you have that you can't just say, you know what, thank you. If you're the person that's always giving, you're the person that's always blessing somebody. And then when they try to bless you and you be like, no, I'm good, I'm all right. Well, you're stopping that person that's trying to bless you, their blessings as well. And so it's just a cycle. That's the way God is. You plant seeds and then you have the harvest from the things that you have planted in other people's lives. So don't be selfish and don't allow people to sow into your life. Don't feel like, you know what, I got it going on and hey, I don't need that. And for my widow sisters that may be on the line, we tend to uh, not want to ask anybody for anything. And we keep our mouths closed because we don't want to bother anybody, because you may feel like I felt like I haven't had to ask anybody for anything until this happens. So we never know when the tables can turn. And just because we are children of God does not mean that we won't find ourselves in those positions. But God is faithful. That is one thing I can say, is that God is faithful. Every time I got right to the edge of not being able to afford something, God has came through for me. So I'm so thankful. I give him all the praise, the glory, and the honor, because he has been true to his word. When he says he watches out for us, he really does. He really, really does. So I know I have a lot of panic attacks, and I tend to worry. I tend to try to take control over what's going on in my life. And he just keeps showing me, Crystal, you're not in control. Hey, you are not in control. God is in control of it all. And so you will find yourself keep having all of these different circumstances, all of these different tests to see where you are. Let me see where you are now, because I know you said that you trust me and you have faith, right? And so as you mature in this Christian walk, then you will start realizing that, okay, I recognize what this is. And sometimes I'm like, I recognize what this is. This is a demon on assignment. And so I have to, if my mind is racked up with a lot of different things, and I start thinking in the wrong way, I have to learn, hey cousin, that what am I going to replace that thought with? What am I going to replace that fear with? And so as you learn and you get in the Word of God, and I'm not going to say that I'm a person that get into the Word of God, but I listen to a lot of the Word of God. But I'm not a person that just likes to pick up my Bible and do a lot of reading. But I always feed my spirit with the Word of God. And so when you start having those thoughts to your mind, just replace it with what the Word says, right? And so and life will start getting a little better for you when you do that. And you'll start recognizing that, okay, that thought is not a thought of God. That, me feeling in fear and what am I going to do, how am I going to pay my house note, all of that, that's not God. It starts, sometimes you start getting confused, and God is not the author of confusion. So you'll know automatically that that's the enemy that is causing, trying to cause me to be upset, especially if you have a thought on your mind, if you've made up your mind, you know what, I'm going to serve God. I'm going to do the best that I can do. And then you'll have all of these things coming at you, and you have to know how to, work with those things. I always say this, that I know that me, Crystal, raised my kids in the fear and the admiration of the Lord. And so he says, when they depart, they will come back. So whether I see it or whether I don't see it, I have to trust God and know that God is true to his word. So for those of you that may be worrying moms like me, or dads that are warriors, or we may see our children doing or going in a direction that we didn't never expect them to go. But at the end of the day, what God's word says stands. And that's what my hope and my prayer is, and that's my belief. And so you should let it be yours too, because we can be so, what they say, when they're little, they're on your lap. When they become adults, they weigh on your heart. And so that is so, so, so true. But I'm so thankful and I'm so grateful because I know that um, I'm just thankful for my kids. I'm thankful for my husband. I am just thankful for my grandchildren. I realize now that they are a gift to me, and I thank God for the gift, right? And so sometimes because we don't know and we don't take the time to reflect and think about those things, we just kind of think about it was a great big boom and the world existed. And that's not true. And I used to say this all the time, Lord, if you decide to have another world, please put me in my same family. That's how much I love my family. I was like, Lord, please don't put me in some other families. But I just was reflecting on that and thinking about that. And I am, just as I reflect, sitting here talking to you all and thinking about um, this being Thanksgiving month, how thankful and grateful I am. Um, it hasn't been easy. It's been difficult, but I'm still thankful and grateful. I can find that thankfulness and that gratefulness in it all, in the hurt, in the pain, in the difficulties. I still can find a heart of gratitude towards God and towards my loved ones, the people that God has placed in my life. I'm so thankful and grateful. I'm rich, you guys. I am rich with the people that God has placed in my life. And so I'm just so thankful. And so as I was talking to another friend and realizing that it's hard for the younger widows that cannot get any finances until they get a certain age, and how they inherit their home, and how they may not be able to qualify to continue to take on the loan to the house. And what I can say to you is that hold on. I found myself in that place, and God has been faithful. He has provided, and he's no respect of person. So hold on to trust in God. He is going to place you in. It may be a storm right now, but just hold on. And I'm telling you, God will fix it, because listen, He never leaves us on a incomplete. So we have to be completed in Him. And so just hold on. It may be uncomfortable, it may be tight, but just continue to hold on, continue to press forward, continue to trust God. Listen, we're all on the same boat right about now, right? And so, with the economy the way it is, with things going on the way they are, whether you watch the news or not, we are in a crisis. And so, we have to continue to keep moving forward, to keep trusting God no matter what. And again, I will say this, just because you're where you are now, you may not be in need, but you never know someday that you may need exactly what someone else needs today. There's many of you on here that have blessed my life, that have sown into my life, And I thank you guys for that. And I ask the Lord to return that in 100-fold. Even those of you that have purchased things for Thanksgiving, you guys, you guys just don't know. And I just thank God, and I ask God for to give you guys 100-fold return in this lifetime. Don't take it lightly when you sow seeds into me, because I am a tither, I am a giver. And so I know that God rewards you all greatly. Because you've helped me, He's going to provide for you. So don't just look at it like, you know what, I just did this, I got that, and I did this, and then I'm going to get this. No, it's not that like that with me. So, it's not like I'm just running a business and I just got it going on over here. You guys just don't know. You guys help me to pay my mortgage. You guys help me to pay my car note. And so you have truly been a blessing in my life. And I thank you guys for that. And in saying that, if you know a widow or a widower that may need help, listen, in the beginning, a lot of times we get a lot of, how can I help you? And what can I do? And so then after that, our people that can be very close and, dear to us, they fall off. And so don't fall off. That widow, that widower needs you, needs your support, needs your ear, needs to just have, lay your head on their shoulder. Sometimes it's not a lot. It's not always financial. It's just a listening ear without projecting, well, God, this, or this, that, and that, and this and that, and that. When you haven't experienced it, then just be a listening ear. Take the time to just close your mouth and listen to what that person is saying. I was, well, I'll leave that alone. But so just be a listening ear, okay? So to that person, hear what they're saying, hear the heart of that person. Because listen, suicide is on a high now. And so we don't want to drop the ball when someone was trying to tell you, somebody's trying to express to you that they're going through, that they really miss their loved one. Don't turn a deaf ear to that. See if you can help that person. You can give them my number. You can see if you can find some help for that person, maybe through Grief Share or something like that. Ask them, they may need some counseling. Counseling is very good. I know us as a race of people kind of shy away from counseling, but counseling is good. It is really good, and it is of God. Just because you're in Christ does not mean that you don't need some help sometime, right? And so there are Christian counselors out there, and so they can really help. If you found yourself, going through a difficult time, I have a niece, like I said, that just went through a divorce, and it's been difficult for her. And so she's been having counseling, and it has helped her so much, because I hear that that could be very difficult. And so I've been with her on this journey all the way. And I'm telling you, it has, somewhat stressed me out. I have to remind myself and say, you know what, God, this has to be as difficult as well to, lose someone. And of course, us as widows, we always say, that they had a choice and we didn't have a choice because the person had actually passed away. But in that, I'll say this again because, my topic is about getting your affairs in order. And so what ended up happening with me, I was thinking the other day as I got, new paperwork that my husband did not have beneficiary on, right? So I had to go through this process. I still have not done it, but I have to, go through it again. And I was thinking about this. Although I have gotten my trust done, I did my trust and I got it done, but I hadn't had the opportunity to sit my kids down, talk to them, and tell them what to do. And so I was like, Crystal, you kind of get it on Sunday after Sunday, and you still haven't had the chance to sit them down, to talk to them, to tell them what the wishes are, what the important papers are, and what to do if I was to pass away. And so as I thought about that, even though I had put them down as beneficiaries on my bank accounts, at the same time, I was like, but you know what? As these different things keep coming in, these different investments and different things like that had kept coming in, then I realized, you know what? I have not taken the time to write down these bank accounts that I do have. And, so I need to take the time to do that because guess what? They won't know. The bank is not going to call you or call your loved one and say, hey, they have a bank account over here. You need to come and get this money, right? So you want to make sure that is something that I still have to put in place and get done, to write it down, to say, hey, this is this a bank account, this is that bank account, this is where I have bank accounts at, so that your loved ones won't be scrambling all over the place, trying to find out what's what. And so I have also been navigating widows on how to get money from the bank if their name was not on the account. And so a couple of weeks ago, I was speaking to a friend and she was telling me her mom passed and her mom had, some money in the bank, but she just let it go. And then her mom had some investments. And I said, well, I just kind of took it like, well, she's well off. And so she kind of had an attitude like, I didn't need it, um, so you just let the bank keep it because you didn't need it, I don't think any of us would intend on leaving money in the bank that the bank or the state can get, and you don't care. So I was telling her, she said, well, there wasn't a beneficiary on there. So what I found out is that they're not going to tell you that what you could do. They're just going to tell you, okay, well, hey, you got to go to probate in order to get this person's money. And so I was like, I said, do you know you could have filled out, small estate of collections affidavit, as long as it wasn't over 166,000 for California. The different states are different. But if you found yourself where that person didn't have a beneficiary and going to court sounds scary to you, you can fill out a small collections affidavit and receive the money. I've had to do that several times, more than several times. And I was able to retrieve my husband's money. And so it's a good thing and it's frustrating at the same time, but that is something that God allowed me to have insight on. And so I have been helping a lot of different widows navigate how to get their spouse's money and without going to probate. And so we want to make sure that we avoid probate at all costs. So I had someone that sent me a message and said, hey, is it true that if I don't have a trust and if I, I don't have a will, but I have a little bit of property? I only own a little bit of property. And so I was thinking, you're going to go to probate. If you own any property and you have not put these things in place, you are going to go to probate. Your loved ones will be going to probate. And you may have been told, like I was told, just continue to pay the house note. Okay, so say for instance, you have a fire or water damage, and you need your insurance company to pay for it. Well, they're not going to pay for it because that house, the insurance is in the person's name that's deceased. So they won't pay for it if you have, a tragedy at your house. They're not going to pay for it. They're not going to pay for the repair because your name was not who the insurance company was with. So you want to make sure that you get these things in place and in order so that your loved ones won't have to be running around getting death certificates. Death certificates now are about $25. You need about 10 of them when you lose someone. So can you imagine you're paying $300 and $400 for these death certificates? And so you want to just make sure that you have it so that your loved one won't be in grief and hurt and still running around trying to find out, get this death certificate, that death certificate. And so if you write it down, like I said, I need to go back myself and write these things down, who you trust, and as your person that is over, taking care of your business and different things like that. So until you can look into getting your trust done, go ahead and get you a composition book and just write these things down. Listen, if you don't know, you may have had this stuff years ago. And so if you had your, you may not have beneficiaries on there. I think what happened is we assume that we've had it, but we're kind of up in age now, so we've had accounts for quite a bit of time. And so I have had people that said, you know what, hey, I checked, I went to the bank, and guess what? Somebody else was the beneficiary. And so your 401ks, your different things like that, if you have already lost your spouse, it is best to take that spouse off of things. And I know we kind of tend to want to hold on and keep them on things because that's how I was feeling about the bank account. That's how I felt about, the water company, it was under his name. So it was kind of something to just see his name on some piece of mail or something, right? But I realized that had I kept my husband on the bank account, if they had kept that account open under his social security number, that it was a possibility that debt people that he had debt with would come after the estate, right? So I had to change it because you guys all know that I had that helicopter bill that was $70,000 that now comes in my name. And so I was able to get the medical bills taken off. I thank God for that because we were paying 20% of the insurance. And so that's why it was so important for me to start trying to remove his name off of stuff because I knew that they could have put a lien against the house. And so and I remember when my sister-in-law had passed away, she still had my brother as the beneficiary to her account. And so you have to kind of go running around getting paperwork to say, hey, this person that you left as the beneficiary is not there. And so it's important that we go back. I know we're not thinking. I know we are not thinking about this at all. We're not thinking that if we get remarried, that you're living your life and you may be someone that moved into your spouse's house, right? You guys never had kids before. and you move into the house with him and your name is not on the house. And so say, for instance, if you go through the probate, it's a possibility because you guys have no children that the next of kin is actually the spouse's siblings. So you want to make sure that you don't disinherit the new spouse, so because it can happen. And so when you go in and if you get divorced, I have a niece that said, hey, Pumpkin, that uh, she had her ex-husband from so many, I mean, years, over 20 years ago. That's who her beneficiary is. Now she's been with somebody else now over 18, 19 years. But she said, can you believe I still had that person down to get all of my money? And I'm telling you guys, whoever you have down, that is who they are going to give it to. They are going to give that person that's the beneficiary the money. So you want to make sure that you go back and make changes if you lost your loved one, if you may find yourself not together with that person any longer, go back and change it, because if you don't, they are going to give that person as the beneficiary. That's who they're going to give it to. And so I'm telling you guys this just from hearing and talking and what I've experienced, to get your stuff together. And so in the meantime, get a composition book, write it down, write your social security number down, write your bank accounts down, write your ATM numbers. I've ran across people that had been married 30-something years and did not know their spouse's social security number, did not know passwords. If the spouse is the one that pays, let me see, you can change it in the trust because you have a revocable living trust. So that's the good thing about having a revocable living trust. To have a revocable means that you can revoke things anytime you want to. You can go back and make those changes. That's the difference between the irrevocable and the irrevocable and the revocable. And so I ended up doing the revocable trust. That way I would be in full control during the whole time of my life. When I pass away, then that's when things will, fall in place according to the way I did my trust. And so you want to make sure that you have it, especially those of you that own property. I'm telling you guys, you need to have a trust, because what you worked so hard for, nobody is going to really care. They're just going to be like, give me, give me, give me, right? So it's like, you don't want them to have to go through probate. So I knew that my kids would not know to go through probate. And so they could have either came to the house, started paying the house note, or they could have walked away and the house went through foreclosure. So I knew, okay, my kid's not going to know how to do this. So you have to think about it like this. Are your kids going to know what to do if you were to pass away? If both of you guys have passed away, if you guys are a couple, do you know what to do? Or does your spouse know what to do if you were to pass away? Does your deed say joint tenant with survivorship? Because if it doesn't, then it's a possibility that you can find yourself in probate. Now, let me say this. I am talking and speaking as far as California, because California is a community property state. I know a lot of you guys live in Maryland, you guys live in New York, you guys live in a lot of different places. So the states are different. Some, like Baltimore, New York, they are non-community property states, which means if they do their wills, then they still have to go to probate. There is no way that you can go around going through probate. What you want to do is avoid having to open that can up. Like I have a friend and she went through it, but guess what? All of their stuff was pretty much together. So when she presented that will, it went smooth for her. But if there was somebody else, like you may have been in debt, you may have, not had the house in your name, but the reason why she didn't have to go to probate is because her deed did say joint tenant with survivorship. So they had that part together. So that's why it was pretty easy for her. And so we kind of been going back and forth with each other because she's like, well, Crystal, if they got it together, if they just did not say, well, I would say it's probably only uh, probably 2% of the people that did have it together like that. And so from just talking to the people that I have been talking to in the past, it's a very low percentage. I haven't checked it out, so don't call me on it, but I would say that low percentage of the people that have their will done and that, everything is in place where you could just go to the courts because you're going to the courts. If you have a will and a will only, you are going to the courts. But you want to avoid opening a can of worms and you don't know, right? And so to prevent that, to prevent the Medicare recovery, you guys know they're already trying to take, health care away from us, right? But if we find ourselves in a convalescent home, because we never know, and you're there for a certain period of time, past over 100 days, you're going to run out of that insurance money. And so you're going to end up having to have some assistance. And so Medi-Cal is a loan without interest. And so you can be thinking, okay, my house is paid for and I'm leaving it to my children, and you pass away in that convalescent home. Well, it's a possibility that Medi-Cal can come and recover their portion. And so by getting your trust and getting your trust done, it doesn't only secure you, but it secures your legacy. It secures your children. Again, I said, I know my kids wouldn't know to do this. I didn't know to do this. And I found myself in this, and I always say this, I am typically a person that has all of my ducks in a row. And I just realized as I sit some days and think, oh my God, how come I didn't get mortgage protection? Or how come, and honestly, I don't even know what my husband had. And so it's a possibility that my husband had mortgage protection. I did call the insurance company and they said that he didn't have it, but it's a possibility that he had it with someone else. And so if you guys don't take the time to have these conversations with your loved ones, then there's things that you could be missing out on. I missed out on insurance money that because we didn't have the conversation. He never said to me, babe, I have extra life insurance. And so when I found it, it had lapsed. And so, and even with the ones that did, get in contact with me, I had no idea that he had it. And so I don't know, there's each year, every other couple of months, I'm receiving something that I didn't know he had. And was it intentional? I'm sure it wasn't. I think, and I believe his intentions were, he knew that we would not be able to live off of his retirement. So he was planning so that we will be able to continue to live on when he retired, because I've been a stay-at-home wife. And so what happens when you are that stay-at-home wife and your spouse is your only income and you lose that income? And you may be like me. I wasn't 60 yet. So I just turned 60 about 4 weeks ago. And so I was trying to think about changing my social security name. And I was trying to do anything because I was like, my God, how am I going to survive until I'm 60 years old? Because you cannot get your spouse's finances until you turn 60. And so what about the widow? What about the widower that is 30, 35? You know, even if you 55, you know, you're still trying to push because you don't have no income. And so you want to take the time to put these things in place, because if you were a I did not work for somebody else from the time I got married till the time I became an entrepreneur, but I didn't work for somebody else and punch a clock for nobody else for the whole marriage. From the time I got married, that month I got married, that was the last time I punched the clock for somebody else. And so what I didn't realize is that even though I'm an entrepreneur and I did, but that was my money to do what I wanted to do. And so when you're being taken care of and then that is no longer there, and you have spent your whole life into your spouse, into your children, even though they are adults, then you have to start finding out who you are, because I lost myself in them. I gave myself, all of me, for my husband and for my children. And so now it's like, where are you going now? You're 60. I don't have the stamina as I used to have before, when I could bake all of that stuff, you know, do all of that work and do stuff. I don't have the stamina. And so I am pressing my way. I'm pushing, and I'm asking the Lord to give me the strength to do what I need to do. And so as I was saying that, prepare ahead of time. Let your loved ones know what's going on. It may be your older child. It may be your only child. And whichever child you trust to take care of these things, have the conversations and let them know, hey, this is what I want. I want to be cremated. I want to be laid to rest. I told my kids, listen, I've been paying this insurance for so long. You know, give me my rose pink casket and you know, take care of me. It'll be a little something for y'all, but listen, y'all get in this house, y'all can do whatever y'all want to do, but you know, don't have it where they just lose it. Your house go through foreclosure. So, you know, because when you work so hard, your spouse that you've lost has worked hard. Look, I would say this, my brother, my dad, and my husband were workaholics. When I tell you workaholics, my brother's wife never had to punch a clock. 40 something years, she never had to punch a clock. He took care of her. And my dad took care of us. Me and my husband took care of me. We had a choice whether we wanted to work or be creative and do things if we wanted to. And so that's what we did. But then when you lose that and then you think about it, that's a loss of income. So whether they're on Social Security, whether they were getting a work check, that's a loss of income. If you may stay with your parents, if you stay with your mom, you stay with your dad, or you stay with a relative, if that relative is no longer in the home, or they pass away or something like that, or they may be in a convalescent home or something like that, that's a loss of income. And so you guys know that still have your spouses, how difficult it can be with bills and stuff. I look at my kids and I'm like, God, it's so hard now for them. I remember my first apartment was $325 a month. And so it was, it's so difficult for them. Their rent is what my house note is. And so you want to make sure that you look into getting some mortgage protection. And then that way, if you're covered, or you need to look into getting you some life insurance. I know we're older. Some of us may not qualify for life insurance. If you don't qualify for it, take the time to go and prepay for your service. Prepay for your cremation. Prepay for your, because it's cheaper if you do it before you pass away, because they know what state of mind you in. So they're just selling you all kind of stuff. I was so upsold and didn't even realize it until my daughter brought the bill home, and I was like, good grief. I should have went another way. But because you're not thinking at the time that you have to be the one to carry on with everything. So I would suggest, and because I know a lot of times people complain about insurance and they don't want to pay it and it's expensive, I would suggest looking into prepaying for it. And then you don't have to worry about it. That loved one, that hardship won't be on the loved one to say, you know what, I got to do a GoFundMe. I got to sell chickens. I got to go do something. Make sure that you get you some life insurance. Make sure that your adult children have some life insurance. I've constantly on my kids about getting some life insurance. And so I can't afford it. If I could, I would make sure that they had it. And so look into that. Look into that mortgage protection. When I called and got a quote, it wasn't too bad. It was under, $150 a month extra. Of course, now I can't afford it, but I sure wish we would have had it, because the mortgage protection, it covers you while you, it covers you if you became incapacitated and you couldn't work. If you got sick, it pays your house note. And so that's something good, because listen, nowadays, if you don't have those things, you'll be losing your house. If one of you have to go in a home, if one of you can't work, if one of your loved ones can't work, and you guys put together the income, you just need to prepare. I keep saying this, look into getting some mortgage protection, or look into getting a policy that will cover your note. And so I was kind of ignorant to the fact of people having large policies. And sometimes people have knocked their loved ones off for the policy, right? But I get it now, why people of other race have this thing together. They keep the wealth in their families by having their trust done if they own property. They make sure that they have policies that will pay their mortgage off, so that their loved one will be able to continue to live comfortably without having to lose what they have. And so if you know that you may have a spouse or a loved one that may be challenged, and you need to get these things in place, even if you're standing and trusting and believing God for their healing, you still need to get these things in place, because we just never know. We never know if we become incapacitated unexpectedly. So many people have been having strokes, heart attacks, different things like that. That's being incapacitated. And so if we don't have these things in place, it's going to be difficult for your loved ones. So how much do you care for your loved ones that you won't take action and get these things in place? get something in place. I told you guys that I would give you the information if you were to do it yourself. If you need to go to a lawyer, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a paralegal. But listen, while it's still kind of fresh in my mind, um, I am offering to give you the information to get the things in place, to do it yourself. Don't just wait and say, I can't afford it, and don't get anything in place. And then later you have to call me and say, hey, I didn't do that. And I've lost my spouse, because that has happened several times, that I come on Sunday after Sunday, and now people that have lost their husbands have been faced with going through this, and they're like, this is hard, this is difficult, I don't know how you did it. And so God has graced me for this. And so I'm going to continue to keep coming on and sharing with you guys as long as He graced me for it. I never in a million years thought that this would be something that I would be talking about. You guys know that I've done cakes in the past, and so I thought it was going to have to do something with the cakes, because I have done cakes for the stars and for the gospel artists. And so I thought it was going to be something with that. I never thought that I would be getting on here telling people to get their affairs in order. And so as I'm on this journey, as I learn, I will share with you all um, as I learn. And so in the meantime, please start writing things down. If you do have your trust already, please share the information with your loved ones. Don't keep it to you. Please like and share this video so that other people that may need to hear this will be able to hear it. And so if you have your trust already done and you've had it for years, it might be time for you to go back, take a look at it, and revamp some things. Make sure those of you that have apartments, but you have a job, you have a car note, and different things like that, that you go back and, get your power of attorney, right? So you can actually go through Law Depot. You can do your everything there, really. They have everything. They're great. They're real lawyers that draft up these things that are been in business over 20 years. And so a lot of the lawyers use that same company. So just if you're computer savvy, trust me, you guys, if I was able to get it done, you can get it done. And so, like I said, while it's fresh in my mind, while I've just had mine completed, it's been about a year now, almost close to a year. And so while it's fresh in my mind and that I can do, because the laws continue to change every year, but you want to get something in place. Don't just leave it where nothing is in place and the lawyers end up taking all of the equity and from you the payments, because probate can start anywhere 30, 40,000, depending on how long you actually are in the probate. And so probate usually runs at least 2, 3 years, sometimes 4 or 5. And as long as you're in that probate, if you're in the probate process, then all of your bank accounts are seized. And so how are you going to continue to pay your bills if everything is seized, if you have no income? You have no income, and you can't get to the money. And if you're not 60 yet, you don't have no income. And so you want to make sure that you prepare ahead of time so that you won't be blaming God and going crazy and homeless, because there have been people that have been homeless, and it wasn't because that's what they wanted, but they lost their spouse. And so They had to relocate. They had to downsize. And this is widows and widowers. And so, do you want to leave your husband like that in the position? Because remember, your income will be no longer. So you want to make sure that you get the mortgage protection, or you have an insurance policy that will cover your mortgage to pay your mortgage off. Okay. And for those of you that are blessed that have already paid your mortgages off, please make sure that you remove that spouse, if they have passed away, name off of the home, the cars, and different things like that. It needs to be removed because it will make it difficult if their names are still on there. Then your children or your loved ones will have to be running around trying to get different people, different people's death certificate. I have a friend, and I'm sure she doesn't mind me talk about this, but she had her husband had they had gotten married. They had been together for quite a bit of time, but they both were divorced. And then when they got together, when they got married, they were together for a long time, and then they got married. And so, you know how we just have separate accounts for whatever reason. That person may not be a good manager of the finances. And then sometime or another, for some reason, you have an account, he have an account, and then you have a joint account, right? And so with that separate account, all of their things were together, but this one account. And this one account had over $100,000 in this one account. And in Maryland, I think ours is $166,000 that can be probated, but theirs is 100. So I think they have to have less than 50,000 in the bank in order to do a small affidavit. Well, the beneficiary was her husband's mom. The husband's mom had already passed away. Guess what? We're not thinking that, oh yeah, my mom passed away. I forgot I put her as the beneficiary at the bank. I know we ain't thinking that because I wasn't thinking that. And so I wasn't thinking about it, even removing him from the policy that I have on me, until my aunt told me, you better make sure that you change the beneficiary. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known, let me change the beneficiary because now he's no longer here. We don't think like that. And so what happened is, because it was in his mom's name, her sister-in-law really could have been the person to go in because she's the one that had the death certificate. So she could have went in and got, the money, but she gave it to her so that she would go and retrieve it. But what if you have a sister-in-law that don't like you? So that's how that went. And that just lets me know, like, goodness gracious, it's the next of kin, not the spouse. The next of kin has more props. So even when my sister-in-law was going through this, and her mom had a house, and so her dad is her stepdad. He never had any biological children. And so with him not having any biological children, if something was to happen to him, because he did the same thing I did, with the house, if something was to happen to him, if he was to leave this earth, which that was really the mom's house, then his siblings would inherit her mom's property. So you see how you can disinherit your children and not even know it. And it's simply because you didn't have your affairs in order. You have to have it. It has to be in black and white in order for it to, the system. And so you want to make sure that you do your power of attorney as well, because listen, we don't want the state, they're already trying to have so much say over us, right? And with you not having that, you're giving them the power. The reason why there is probate is because Congress has already wrote this up, and they're telling you this is what's going to happen to you if you don't have this in place. Okay, this was going to happen to you. You get ready to go to probate. And if you had the judge like I had that was insensitive, I would say, but at the end, he told me, he said, hey, you persevered. And after all I went through, but I learned at the same time, he turned around, and when he awarded me the house, I showed him a video of me and my husband getting the keys to the house. And because he said to me so many times, why should I grant you this house? And so I just couldn't understand, what is wrong with you, man? We were married for 34 years. And so probate is a $2 billion a year industry. And so I seen the families there. I seen the people fighting amongst each other because people didn't have their affairs in order. And it's nasty. Even people that you think you can trust, when death happens, it's a whole nother thing. Everybody thinks they're entitled to something, and you halfway ain't even talked to those people. You halfway ain't even seen those kids, and they feel like they're entitled to something. They feel like you've taken something away because that person said, that's who I want to be in charge, because they trusted you. So make sure that you go ahead and get these things in place. And again, I'll say this. If you know you have a parent that may be challenged right now, you want to get these things in place because they may become incapacitated. I have a good friend that husband is incapacitated now. And so guess what? They have their trust. They had their things together, but there was a couple of little things that needed to be tightened up. But now they can't even do it because her husband is incapacitated. And so if you know you may be seeing some signs, and you may be having a little inch of something, a niche in you saying, I need to do this, then you need to do it, because that's just a little niche from a nudge from the Holy Spirit saying, you need to get this in place. You need to get this done, because otherwise, I just don't want you to say, so I didn't get this done. And I know I was talking to you Sunday. I was talking and listening to you Sunday after Sunday, and I didn't get this done. So write it down. If you pay your bills online, if you pay all your bills, if you're the lady and you pay all the bills, let him know what to do. How can you do that? And just a little thought, because this keeps coming back to me, is can your loved ones continue to pay the mortgage if you are, that person will not no longer, can you continue to pay the mortgage to live on? If the answer is no, then look into getting some mortgage protection, or look into getting some life insurance that that loved one will be able to continue on and not feel the brink of not having that loved one. If you have, again, back to the email addresses, if you pay all the bills from, have a separate email address than your personal email address that you pay bills from. For some reason or another, people like to be private and they don't like to give their email address up, right? And so make sure that you have a business email address, that you take care of all the household things. Write those things down so that your loved one can just say, open the book and say, hey, okay, this is this, okay, this is how I can pay the house note. Because guess what? Even if you become incapacitated and you're still alive, that loved one cannot do anything without that information, and you don't have nobody as the beneficiary on that account. And then you you fall, you hit your head, you have a stroke, you have a heart attack, but you survived it. Well, what you gonna do? How are you guys gonna be able to carry on to pay the things that need to be paid? The mortgage company, the bill collectors don't care about you. All they want is their money. So prepare and set aside, because we don't know now what's ahead of us. It's good to get you some soil. It's good to get you some seed, because we don't know what's ahead of us. It's good to stack your pantry because we don't know what's ahead of us. It's also good to uh, help one another. If you know someone that may be living alone and you still have your spouse, don't be selfish. Find out if that person needs something. Find out if that neighbor needs something, because I believe the Meal on Wheels and different things like that have been affected. Dr. Noreen says all the time, she said, for 10 years, I was by myself. During COVID, nobody ever checked on me. Nobody ever seed about me from the church. And so when I first lost my husband, I was thinking, it was August, so it was like the first Thanksgiving or something. And so for ministries and those of you that are giving, that may be having different things going on with your church and different things like that, have them maybe, say, hey, you know what, my church is doing this, my church is doing it, really, and sign up. Sign up is from 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock. You have to pre-sign up. You can't just go, but they have it available for you. But for those of you that have your own ministries and different things like that, one thing about us as widows, we're not going to ask you for nothing. I don't know if it's the pride, I don't know what it is, but we're not going to ask. So automatically have that person write it down for them, collect the bag for them, give it to them. Just take the bag, take some groceries to that person's house, whether it's a widow or a widower, maybe it's someone that lost their child, maybe it's someone that lost their mom or their dad, and things are different this year. They're not going to ask you. It's very rare that they're going to say, I need something. They're not going to say it, but they can be over there needing it. And as one of the elders said today, is you don't know how blessing that person will be able to carry that, push that person a little further, that they can have a little bit more strength to move forward and wanting to live. Because you can feel real down and worthless when you lose stuff, you lose your finances, you don't know what you're going to do. Your mortgage is due, your car note is due, different things like that. You don't have no food and stuff. And so in our minds, we just kind of thinking they ought to know that already. But since they don't know that already, I'm telling you, help those widows and widowers out. If you know someone that is elderly, help them. If you have it abundance, and if you have a need, and like I said, I know we don't like to go and say nothing. And so help them out, because that will push them a little further to say, you know what, God does care about me. Somebody care about me. Because you can feel so alone that nobody cares. So take the time to give to someone that you haven't given to. If you see the need, don't assume that they got it going on over there. And then take the time before we come out of 2025 to be forgiving. What the world needs today is love, love, love. And if we can love one another like Christ loves us, then we're going to be okay, y'all. We are going to be okay. So we got to help each other. We got to be like back in the day. I remember, I don't know if Leslie is still on here, but I remember back in the day where when my neighbors, uh, we would, if they didn't have no bread, Miss Charlie would come over to the house and get him 2 pieces of bread. You know, if it wasn't no sugar, you didn't have no eggs, we shared amongst each other. We didn't just hoard everything to us like afraid that we ain't gonna be able to, you know, we ain't gonna have if we give. No, the more you give, the more you sow, the more God is gonna sow back to you. He's gonna return it back to you. And so what happened to those days? Do y'all remember those days when you can borrow a cup of sugar, 2 eggs, or come over to the neighbor's house? I used to be back and forth over Leslie. Leslie was over my house. I was over her house. And my other neighbor, if they seen my parents' lights or something about to get cut off, you know, Mother Morgan would come across that street and pay that bill, pay the light man if she seen something going on, you know. So let us get back like that. Let us be a community of love and caring for one another when we are in need, and just don't hold it to yourself, because again, suicide is on a high. And it's all because of somebody not taking the time to speak to someone, to talk to them, and just to get another glimpse of hope. So you just never know, by you sharing with that person, the glimpse of hope that you give to that person to carry on. Even with me, even though I complain and I cry about stuff, but when I talk to a new widow, I have that, you know, little glimpse of hope to say, you know what, I can make it. And as I encourage her, I always build myself up, just encouraging that other person, saying, I was there. I've had the blackout curtains. I was disappointed in God. I didn't want to hear nothing about no scripture. I didn't want to hear nothing about nobody that had not lost their spouse, because they don't know what I've been going through. And so I know that place. And I know that there may be some of you on here today that have lost your spouse already. And all I can tell you is this: keep moving, keep getting up each and every day. There may be times where you want to stay in that bed, stay in those blackout curtains, and don't do nothing. But I promise you, if you keep getting up and moving, that He will continue to start healing you through the process. Will you still have days that you just feel like you want to go crazy and kick and scream in the middle of the floor? Absolutely, you will. But if I promise you this, if you get up from after you kicked and cried and lamented to God, that He will strengthen you even in that. We have sometimes that strength comes in that crying, in that lamenting to God. That's where we gain our strength from. But we can't just lay down and die. We cannot, because listen, you are someone separate than who your spouse was. Yes, I thank God for the gift. I thank God for the time, because everybody does not get to experience what I got to experience. And so I'm thankful today in the goodness of God, how He had seen me and how He count me worthy enough, trustworthy enough to trust me to speak to His people, that it won't come across like, you know, I don't know what I'm talking about, but just hold on. And it's not easy. We had several new widows on. I mean, like 3 or 4 on, and the community is getting larger and larger. And it's something that I have no control over. If I did, no one else will lose their spouse because it's a difficult thing. It's like no other loss. I can say for the ones that I have lost already, that losing a spouse is like no other loss. It's like when they say the two will become one, that's true. And so it's like a part of you, if you had your foot or your leg or your arm cut off, that's a part of you that you miss, right? And so that's my husband's part of me that I no longer have is what's so hurtful. And so as God continued to heal me on this journey, I'm not crying every day like I was. And so I feel my help. I feel the prayers. And so, it's a season. It's a part of a season of our lives, right? And so we have storms, we have rain, and it's like the seasons come and go. Know this, that this is a season that you're in now and that it cannot stay the same. And God says this, if you were to just lay down and die, what glory would that bring to him? So he cannot get no glory out of us if we're in the grave, if we just lay down and say we were defeated in this thing, right? So, yes, absolutely. I would not date this grief for nothing. But I do know that he says joy will come in the morning. We just don't know which morning. So we have to keep moving forward until that morning comes. And so, that's it, you guys. I love you guys. Please like and share. And, you know, by all means, until you can get it done, because I know it's costly. I know it's expensive. But get something in place. Whether you start working on it yourself, get it in place. I know you probably don't know, okay, I don't know who I want to be in charge and this and that, or just get something in place. And then because it's a revocable living trust, you can go back and change it later. But get it in place because you don't want that person to be on their deathbed and you're around trying to do a power of attorney. You're running around trying to do a healthcare directive. You do not want that to happen. So if you get these things in place ahead of time, then listen, you're going to be happy. You are going to be so happy. I helped a friend not that long ago. You're welcome, Crystal. You guys are welcome. And a couple of weeks ago that I helped with some banking information that was possibly, kids were talking about starting or opening up a probate and different things like that. And so I helped her navigate through that. And so I've helped quite a few widows be able to navigate where they were able to get into accounts and move money before a probate opened up. And then also, I've known quite a few that have the accounts were seized, they were closed. And so, can you imagine you and your spouse, you guys are taking care of business, and you guys have an account together. And because there were no beneficiaries, I'm sorry, you didn't have the account together, but there were no beneficiaries on the account. And so but you guys had bills coming out. That was like me. I had bills coming out of this one account that was solely in my husband's name. That was my life. I had that account over 20 years. So when it came down to I had to close it, can you imagine if I started my probate first, all of my money would have been locked up in the bank until after the probate, because you cannot get any of the money until after the probate is finished. If your finances are stuck in that account, you can't move nothing. So make sure that you have changed your beneficiaries on all. If you've lost your spouse already, please go back and change your beneficiaries to who is still alive that can do it, because otherwise it's going to be difficult. Your children or your loved ones are going to be running around trying to get a death certificate. And some of you may not even be able to get a death certificate, depending on what state you're in. And so make sure that you change your beneficiaries so that your loved ones will be able to lay you to rest without to go through all of that. Okay. All right. Love you guys. And please, for those of you that just came on, watch the replay. And please like and share, and please leave information if there's something you want to ask me that I can help you with. But again, if you don't have it, you can most definitely get it done. You can get this trust done yourself, and then you can take it to a lawyer or paralegal to look over it to make sure everything is good and in place. And let's get on it, you guys. Please remember this year, let us be forgiving. Let us not hold grudges. Let us be thankful. Think back over the years how God has kept you, how God has been faithful to you, and reflect on the goodness of God. And remember how He has brought you out of things that you thought you could not get out of, that you could not make it through. I never imagined that it would be 4 years for me that I would be still here without my husband. And so I have changed that attitude that I had before of not wanting to hear no scripture, not wanting to hear nothing, not wanting to hear nothing from God, not trusting God, not even a thought of, is God even really real because He didn't do what I wanted Him to do? This could not be my life and my story. But when I learned about the sovereignness of God and how each and every one of us He allows to come down here, and if we have accepted Christ as our Lord and Savior, that we're His children, He's our daddy, and who are we to say when He calls His children home? So I'll leave you guys with that. Love you guys. All righty. See you guys next Sunday if the Lord says the same. And please remember, if there's anything you need to, just send me a message through Messenger if there's anything you need to ask or inquire about looking into getting your trust done. For those of you that have apartments, a car, a job, it's important that you do your power of attorney, because we never know if we can become incapacitated. Okay, so you want your loved ones to be able to carry on your business for you until you get your healing. And so in order for you to be able to keep your things in place until you get your healing, you need to have your power of attorney, because your beneficiaries are different than your power of attorney. Beneficiary, you have to die before that person can get it. So what's been happening is a lot of people have been going to the bank and saying, hey, you know what, my loved one is in the ventilator, and I need the money because I need to pay the rent, I need to do this, I need to do that, and you can't do it because you didn't have a power of attorney. So make sure that you get your power of attorney in place, and then when you get your trust, all of those things will be inside your trust. So your parole will, your healthcare directive, your power of attorney, all of those things should be within the trust. Okay? All right. Love you guys. Bye-bye.